So tell me from the beginning, what were the early days of Jai like?
So I was born here in New York, December 10th, 2000, to Andrew Jackson and Melanie Jackson. I was really just like a kid who liked to do a lot of drawing, listen to a lot of music, dancing. I was like really, I was really creative. I was really active, and I always just liked to be creating something. Whether it would be making my own comic books or just making a book of like characters, like superheroes, stuff like that. Like I would just do all that. Like that's what I would do. Like every minute, like I was writing stories, I was doing stuff like that. I started playing soccer like very early age 3, up to high school. It's kind of where I ended, but it was just a major part of my life, and it taught me a lot, and it kept me active, kept me in that active mindset. But yeah, I started from young. So I think when I was 7 years old, I got like really, really sick. My parents had to rush me to the hospital because I had this some type of like intestine disease or something. It was really nasty. But yeah, they had to rush me to the hospital. And then when they tried to diagnose me, they couldn't. So they kind of let me go. They gave me some antibiotics, but that only made it worse. And then I had to go back to the hospital for a longer period of time. And it almost looked like I was gonna die. So, I mean, I'm here. But, yeah, it was just a really long period of time. It was hard for my parents, especially my parents, because, so I was their only son, or I am their only son, and, for me to just die so soon would have been terrible. So getting through that terrible disease, I mean, like, I still have, like, PTSD from it, just, like, needles, and, like, I had to get so many, like, injections, so many different, like, things coming into my body. Like, they had to put, like, a feeding tube into me. I still have, like, a scar, like, right here, from that, and, yeah, they had to do a lot to me. So it wasn't a very pleasant time, my early years, but I got out of that, and thanks to God, I think St. Agnes is really where my story starts. That's where I made a lot of my friends, like Miles Crosby.
Okay, Miles, would you like a normal question or a challenge?
So I went into 3rd grade, everyone had their friends already, so it was nice of him to be
How much?
so friendly and kind, accept me as the new kid.
Less than a pound? That is correct! Yeah! Now remember...
So middle school was a very interesting time for me. I was really just expressing myself, learning how to express myself, but I was doing it like with zero fear. Like I was just kind of doing whatever I wanted, and I didn't feel embarrassed. I didn't feel, like, oh, I can't do that because they're here, cause someone's watching me. Like, I did not care if anyone was watching me.
Did you make videos too?
So yeah, actually I did have a YouTube channel back in the day. I think it's called 7789077U. That's what my 7-year-old self was thinking to name it at the time.
Hi, this is Jai. Hi, this is 7780077U, and this is my first video.
You were telling me earlier that exams were a big competitive thing for you.
I did see like everything as a competition, even with grades. Like I would be sitting in like the class, and we'd be getting our tests back, and the teacher's handing down the tests, and I look at everyone else's grades, And I'm like, oh, they got this, they got that. And I'm in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, I did well. And I usually did. I usually did do well, but it was always like that kind of like that calculating, like, oh yeah, I'm better. I'm like on top of these people, or like seeing people as inferior. I'd say this part of my life, it almost felt perfect, because my social life was there. My grades were there, and what I wanted to do, which was art at the time, I was doing it. So I really feel like it was just a great time in my life. And I'm not trying to say it to brag. I'm trying to say it because it sets up what came next in like my timeline. Like it really just sets up the next phase. So high school kind of stopped my momentum from middle school. Like, if you look at both of those times in my life, it was like middle school, amazing. High school, trash. Some of it trash, some of it good, but it was basically like a whole bunch of like bumps in the road, and I had to try to drive across that.
So freshman year was fine. I still felt like myself. I think back then I was trying to be the most popular out of the class. I was always doing like a scan in the back of my head. Who's popular, who's not. And that was a way of gaining like the social wealth or the social hierarchy that there was in high school. But that was something I did just unconsciously.
So where did things start crashing down?
Crashing down. I think it had to be at the table.
The table?
So freshman year, I sat at this lunch table with these kids. I didn't really like them, but I sat there because, they were popular and I wanted to be too. I don't remember exactly how, but one of the girls at the table started to make fun of me. No reason for it, really. I guess she had some type of problem with me. And then the rest of the table joined in. I tried to ignore it and just sit there, eat my lunch, but it was like torture pretty much. I was torturing myself by not leaving. I didn't want to talk to them. It almost felt like I was sitting there alone. And that was like a big thing. Everyone's like, oh, I need a table because I don't want to be the only one, I don't want to be sitting alone. And even though there were people there at my table, that's what it felt like, sitting alone. I had a friend at another table who saw me just being kind of sad every day. He tried to reach out and say, come over to my table, where you actually have friends. But I think out of pride, I was like, nah, I'm good here. It's all right.
So at that table is where I first started to feel self-conscious. And then from there, my self-confidence just went down.
And for some reason, my math grades as well. Math was something I took pride in being good at because it was something that caused me a lot of trouble in middle school. And I finally felt like I had a good grasp on it. So here I was again getting anxious about math.
Tell me about your sophomore year.
So sophomore year sucked. Coming off freshman year, I tried to regain self-confidence, be me again, but things just kind of went downhill.
Sophomore year is a little hazy in terms of events, but what I do remember is the anxiety problem that I developed. My body was doing things I didn't even know were possible. I would be walking down the hall, and if my eyes met someone else's, they would just tear up. My eyes would tear up. It was weird. I had this weird tingling sensation near my heart. I literally thought I had some sort of heart condition. My hands would be cold all the time, my body too. I felt like I had frostbite every 2 seconds. I tried to counteract all the anxiety with some meditation, and I also started watching motivational videos, but that didn't help. As a Christian, I was feeling kind of guilty about that stuff, so I decided to stop, and I just started to pray instead to help me. Sophomore year was also the year I realized I hated my soccer team. I was starting to see that the people that I was with, I wasn't friends with them. Even though I'd been on the team for 7 years, I just never made any friends there. And it just kind of started to weigh on me. I started feeling very depressed once I had that realization. That awareness of my loneliness on the team just made me play worse and made me really self-conscious to the point where I could barely play like I used to. I don't know why I stayed. I think it was because I felt like it was quitting. Eventually I just came to the conclusion that it was stupid to stay on the team, stay in a place where I just didn't belong. So I quit. The last day wasn't really special. It was a rainy day, and I think I played all right. At that point, I was so detached from the team, I didn't even want to say goodbye, not even to my coach. My mom had to tell me to say goodbye to him. When the sun came out, it felt like a sign, like this was the right thing to do. Leaving that team was just a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I felt better. Junior and senior year were both kind of the same. They just kind of went fast. It was just kind of whatever. So in junior year, I thought about what I was going to do for college, because before that, I just didn't know what that would be. I was kind of panicking, but I eventually decided that it would be film. In senior year, I started getting better with my anxiety.
Did your confidence come back?
So yes and no. I had some confidence, but I still wasn't the same person as before. And I was really chasing that. I was really trying to be the same person I was before all the anxiety and all that stuff happened to me. But the reality of it is, and I realized it, that you can't go back to that, because you are the person you are and you're growing from that point. You can't look at the past and say I want to be there, because it doesn't exist. You have to grow, take what you learned, and move on, make yourself a different person. And that's just part of life. So that's what I had to learn. I had to be what I was becoming, not what I was back then.
So what's your life like now?
Right now, it's just figuring it out, just day by day, really. 2020 has been an interesting year for most. For me, it's been a transformative one. With all that time in the house, I was able to see how much I needed to work on myself and my skills. For the first time in a long time, I actually became consistent with things. I finally started learning Spanish, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I'm studying every day now. I started this script. I want to see it to its completion, because everything else I wrote never finished. I started doing MMA. This year I found that letting go of all that fear, of all those things that make you, is what gives you confidence in yourself. And that's something I constantly want. I just want to be me all the time. And I noticed that, if you're, moving away from who you really are,
The more you do that, the more you put up this like fake version of yourself, and then when that fake version gets attacked, it kind of just comes all crumbling down. So to like sum it all up, I just want to be me, you know. I just want to be myself, if I can, like at all times, you know. Be me when everyone's around and when no one's around. That's my goal, you know. And I'm not perfect. I still mess up, you know. I still make mistakes. I'm still selfish. I'm still doing things wrong in certain areas, and I'm learning. But what I really want is to just be myself, because I feel like that is what stops you from being free.
Okay, this was sponsored by Tap Water.
Tap water.
Goodbye.